Let's rock.
Let's do it. Call this workshop to order, please. Brittany, fund summary report, please.
You have a fund summary report that was updated at the end of the day with most transfers done, all the bills paid.
Go ahead.
That's all I got
All you got?
besides them.
Buckeye Hills Comprehensive Planning Program. You want us to all move down
I
there?
would love for you to come down here.
We can do that.
Sorry.
Send here by Scott so he doesn't get out of control.
Right, how you doing?
Good, sir.
I'm gonna let anybody take my seat.
Hey, Chris, how are you, buddy?
Finally back. Finally kicked up. 3 weeks. I'm good. Hold your breath. You right there on back. I'm a cold.
Okay. All right, so we brought lots of things for you. We gave some to the folks as well.
between two thorns here today.
So what I want to do tonight is, so first of all, thanks for filling out your SWOT and getting back to us. Brittany, thanks for getting those together. Of course, appreciate it. We're pouring over those still. We're learned a lot. That was good. So tonight, what I wanted to talk about was data and information. And as you can see, we brought you a lot of things. And so part of the question tonight is, and I don't know the answer, and I'm asking this legitimately, is what information would help you? And so I picked a couple things here that I'll run over with you. And really, the handouts, I'm not going to go over every single item on here because it's just a ton of information, but I kind of wanted to give you the sense of what's there so you can check it out after we're going. So the first thing on the front says ACS Population Summary. You want to direct your attention to that one. So this, wow. So what you'll see in here is information about the population of Crooksville in every different way you can think about it. By age, by sex, by household type, by their ability to speak various languages, by income, civilian status, veteran status, poverty status. So there's a lot of information, just kind of general demographic information here about your population. I do want to draw your attention to this column over here that says MOE, and that stands for margin of error. So here's a little census lesson. I have to give this to everybody. So before the 2000 census, we had something called the long form, which was where when you get it in the mail, you could get selected to get a much longer version of the census that had a lot of additional questions, and they did away with that. And now what they do is they do the American Community Survey, which is like every year they're surveying a certain number of people in each community. And so when you get into a very small community, so like Crooksville, when you have 2,500 people, the number of people that you have to reach in order to statistically make a population or make a survey sample size is pretty small. And what they do then is they take that result and they kind of extrapolate it up for the whole town. So that margin of error, the higher, there's a little graph, a little bar next to that, so if that's like longer, that means that margin of error is really high. And so think about it. So if you've got something where the number of kids enrolled in school is 587, and the margin of error is 131 plus or minus, that means that number could be as high as 800 and as low as 300. So you're going to see that margin of error, and that's common in small communities all across the country. That's not just for Crooksville. So I point that out to say when you're looking at this information, that's your grain of salt. And the higher that margin of error is, the larger your grain of salt should be. So just kind of take that into consideration when you're looking over the population information. So that's the first one. The second one is age by sex profile. So again, kind of a continuation of the population broken down by age and sex. So you can kind of see where you are. The very last page has a graph on it. And the graph is 2010 at the top, 2018 in the middle, and the projection for 2023 at the bottom. It's the next one. Yep. Yep. Sorry, the next set of papers. Sorry.
Buttons change. When they close on that paper. Then we're gonna get older.
Yeah.
That's not a bad thing.
Well,
So those.
So,
Population summary and sex by age is kind of your demographic part. Now, the next little packet, you'll see housing summary.
I'm done with that anyway.
We pulled this one out specifically for you guys because there was a lot of question and discussion about housing at the last meeting. And also, we're going to talk about this later also. Is we put this map together, and this shows, and we'll talk about this in a little bit, residential properties in Crooksville that we took out of the auditor's database and categorized them by what type of residential property they are. I know there was a lot of talk about vacant residential housing, and so we'll use this map in a little bit to talk about if that lines up with kind of what you guys are experiencing in the community. So the housing summary, so this is also pretty good information. We use this a lot. This will talk about your total households, the type of occupations, so whether they have a mortgage, whether they're rentals, the amount of contract rent. One of the typical measures of well-being out there is if you spend 30% or more of your income on housing, that's considered to be a lot. And so typically, optimally, you want to spend less than 30% of your income on housing. That's just kind of a typical number. And you'll see that reference, maybe not in this document, but if you research housing information that's out there, you'll see that value referenced a lot. One of the ones that I always think is interesting is the year that structures are built in communities, and obviously I live in Marietta, and it's most like many other communities, there's a lot of very old housing, so 1939 or earlier in Crooksville, 48.9% of all housing units in Crooksville built before 1939. Pretty interesting, but I would say that's pretty typical. There's also information here about when folks moved in. I saw there was some comments in the SWAT about folks moving in and out of town pretty regularly. So that will give you some kind of context to see if what you're feeling and seeing in the community actually lines up with what the data says. And then on the very last page is the occupied housing units by vehicles available. We pay special attention in Buckeye Hills in our transportation planning to areas that have high numbers of places where there are 0 cars in a household. Because it's, I don't think this is a surprise to anyone, but our rural communities, they're all predicated around the automobile. So if you don't have a car or access to a car or ability to operate and maintain a car, it's very hard for you to have or keep a job or do anything else. And so when we see places and there's little to no public transit, not just in Crooksville or Perry County, but really anywhere in not just Buckeye Hills region, but the Appalachian Ohio. So when we see places that have a lot of zero car households, that kind of gets our attention for that's probably a high poverty, high employment area. And so that's kind of we kind of take notice of that. So that's just another interesting kind of measure of kind of what's going on in your community. Okay, so the next, I know I'm kind of rifling through these, but I want to ask you some questions. Next one is a one-pager, front and back, kind of flips on the short side. Business summary. So this will show you the number of businesses by the various classification codes in the village, and also the number of employees that they have in that industry sector. So also, it's also important to realize this. I don't see any of that are on here that are suppressed. But the point of the census is you can never really identify one person. So if you have a company or a business that really employs one person, you would know that, John has the only furniture and home furnishing business in your town. They might suppress that because you could then identify that one single person. So I don't see any of those on here, so that's interesting. But there was a lot of questions. There was a lot of comments on the SWOT about trying to attract new business and about what businesses do you have and trying to draw attention to downtown. So this will give you some context as to what businesses are actually out there and what levels of employment are they achieving for the village. And then the last sheet. So this one was sparking a lot of conversation in our office today. So this is a retail marketplace profile. And this is basically showing, I should have printed this in color because it's color coded. So what we're looking for here is, there are industries, the industry categories on the left, the amount of demand for that industry in the next column, the supply for that demand, and then there's a gap. Yeah. So then, that might be better to look at if you want to pass that around. So if it's green, that means you have more supply than there is demand for that, or there's a demand for that industry in your community. If it's red on this one, which I'll pass around, and I can kind of illustrate in the back, that means folks are coming to your community for that industry or to patronize that business. And it was, if I'm not mistaken, it was beer, wine, and liquor stores. Other general merchandise, and then lawn and garden. So those are the things that people were coming to Crooksville for, to patronize. And then all these other ones were industry sectors that folks are leaving Crooksville to spend their money to acquire those goods. And so, again, another kind of good snapshot that you can use to kind of help you understand what's out there, maybe do a little bit of targeting for either downtown business or other things that you want to bring to town. So I rifled through that real fast because I want to ask you this. I don't know what helps you. Are data points like this helpful for the conversations that you guys have, or the things that citizens and residents bring up to you guys? There are many, many, many more things like this that we can provide you with that kind of helps give some context to what might be going on. But I want to make sure that what we're giving you is helpful. And that doesn't even begin to start with the map stuff that we'll talk about as well. Does anybody have any feelings like that, or you folks as well?
Might be more helpful after I get a chance to actually absorb
Yes.
a little bit of it.
Yes. Yeah, and I intentionally kind of handed that out so you could take it with you. I mean, I just wanted to introduce you to kind of what was out there.
That color one that went around here.
Yep.
You said it was
If it's green,
lawn and garden.
if you look at the back there,
I don't know.
Just look at your negative.
that's good. If you look at the back, the ones that are on this side, these are the ones that people are coming to Crooksville to spend their money or to patronize. This side means people are going outside of Crooksville to spend their money. So, automotive, auto parts, furniture, home furnishings, those are things people are leaving Crooksville to buy. These are the ones that they're coming into Crooksville for.
Well, that could be a positive in a way, because that means the demand's there.
Sure.
All we got to do is, that means
Sure.
there's potential
And I
for
think that's what I'm trying to show. That's what we're trying to show here is that, if you're trying to look for things that you want to try to attract or you want to try to build on, that's illustrating the demand. So you might be able to kind of entice somebody to say, these are some opportunities for additional business growth in town.
So look for the ones with the highest demand. Would
Yes,
probably be-
yeah, that.
$3.1 million in demand, only $2 million being spent locally. There's a $1.1 million gap.
Yep.
Yeah. Go to Walmart.
And you like to save a lot, then go to prison.
Could be a reason why there's a university on Crooksville level.
So with that said, my first question was, here's the general village map. And I brought some markers, but I would like to leave here tonight. Can somebody outline on here, where do you think your core downtown area is? Like, what's your core main downtown area that you want to, if you guys want to focus on that area as an effort of the council, where is that area on the map? And I'd like to be able to leave here tonight because one of the things we wanted to do, we wanted to do a real brief parking overlay to kind of get a sense of where, because parking was another thing that came up on the SWOT as well. So we can do a real quick inventory of parking using some aerial photos, but we wanted to know what you think the main downtown business area is that you want to focus on, because that came up several times in there as well. Does anybody have a sense?
Main Street. All right.
Main Street from the post office down past the dairy market.
Well, that's the old, I think a lot of the progression has come in the last 20 years has been Buckeye right here off of 93.
Main, really.
And that's where the bank, dollar store, Family Dollar, it's all been located basically
Closer to the highway.
closer to the highway.
This is the one that doesn't have anything else on it.
So
You
I,
guys should have a copy of that.
And you guys have
Get
copies
closer
there,
to you.
yeah. Or if somebody could mark on theirs.
Are you talking?
I don't know.
Traffic count
I'll see the
stations or-
generic ones in there. Do we print this small? I don't
I think you brought it last time.
I may have lied to you.
It's okay. Any one of
That's all we
the,
got.
any one of those you can mark it on if you guys feel like you have an idea of where that area is.
Seems like from what they're talking about, it's right here. This is Buckeye, right here.
So Main Street, both sides of the creek there.
Yeah.
So like,
that's basically been downtown for this right here. Main Street, for basically almost east, well,
East school down.
east school down has been down to Buckeye.
this is Buckeye right here.
It goes down to West Main. And the development in the last 20 years. Right here where the municipal building's at, Blackers.
The $2 store. Strip mall.
Right here.
If I could do it all, and you know, everything would be that way, I would say Buckeye out, yeah, from here, you know, from the corner here. That would be mine.
Highway entrance point there.
Yeah, that'd be my guess. Somebody else might be a little different.
And then how would you go all the way?
I would go almost, you got some vacant properties out there
I go to
that's,
the east school.
yeah, that could be torn down and there's potential there for, I mean, because the house is right here off of North Buck, where's that, North State?
North State, South State.
They're pretty deteriorated.
This is South State.
South State runs into East Main right here.
Yeah.
And this runs out to North,
This is North State Street.
yeah, so right up to here.
So both sides of the street in that whole area is what you would consider to be your core downtown that has businesses
Small businesses, the banks,
and that's where you're looking to grow, folks.
Sherman, the
Well, we'd be willing to grow anywhere. I mean, there's
Sure.
actually other areas, potential sites, but those are probably the areas that most people look at.
Okay.
I know in the past 15 years, it's been Buckeye. It's been Buckeye Street, which is right off, and it's been one side though. It's been the highway side. It's not been the village building side.
Ah, I see. It's been here, not there.
That's the side you're saying?
Yeah.
yeah, in between the highway and
So you want to add that?
Tom, what's been the interest that's been brought up down here? Has there been any other interest that's other than we talked about developing out along this way too? That was village development. Well, guys, that's just my thought. Whatever you think. Look there and put them in a different column.
I was also looking, I thought it was interesting, there is no, I mean, this isn't good or bad, but I feel like every village we go in has a historic district, but Crooksville doesn't. I'm just so used to seeing that.
Yeah.
So I was on a historic website looking for it, and it wasn't there, so. It's also problematic. In some places it's good, but it's challenging as well. So some
Most of the historic things have either been torn down or
yeah. There was actually only one historic property in this whole area, and I feel
yeah, it's out by
It was like
Ceramic Road.
yeah, it was
the old stone house.
The old stone house.
down here or something. It was,
Sounds like Greenville though.
but it was the only one in even within a pretty
Yeah,
significant area.
that's the only one that's.
Dennis bought that, I didn't know.
You bought that?
So in this
Got that
area,
lawn looking good.
is there are you guys prohibiting on-street parking anywhere? Can you on-street park anywhere
Yes.
in the village?
Yeah.
Anywhere? Okay. I'll make some upside down notes.
We can flip the paper any which way we want to read it.
In regards to what you're talking about, is in the business development district or just everywhere? in the village?
Yeah. I mean, we generally assume that there is on-street parking every place because nobody really seems to prohibit it. Obviously, we saw your ordinances about the RVs and other living dwellings, but as far as like business traffic or commercial traffic, you know, if I was just going to go down there to shop or whatever, there's no prohibited
Restrictions on-
on-street parking. Okay.
Actually, that's been brought up at council before about parking actually being an issue.
The supply of parking being an issue.
Supply parking being an issue like along Main Street.
Yeah.
Basically, all you have is both sides parking down.
So one of the things that we'll do in this area, and we've done this for other towns, is just do a real basic parking inventory using the photo. And what we'll do is we'll just highlight lots that are there, and then we'll try to get as much as we can from parcel to know whether it's a public parking spot or a lot or it's private. But then you guys will have better context for that than us because it's not always apparent to us. What we found in other places, and I'll just give the experience in Marietta. So Marietta, we have the same thing. What we hear all the time is there's no parking here. And really what that means is I want to buy this pan. And if I can't park directly in front of the cooking store to go in and buy this pan, I'm not going to do it. And so what we did was, we did a parking inventory, and there was like 3,000 parking spots down there. So then what we did was we took the Parkersburg Mall, and we overlaid it to scale on the downtown, said people have no problem going to the mall, going in at Sears, walking all the way down to Penny's, doing whatever, walking all the way back, then back to their car. If you did that same thing downtown, you could go anywhere. I mean, you could reach any business in it from any parking spot in town, and so really what it comes up to is not really a supply, it's just a desirability of not
Desirability of being,
yeah. So
being indoors.
sure, yeah. So what we like again in Marietta, it wasn't really that there was no parking. It's just there's nowhere I want to park. It's kind of a different argument. So we'll do that same thing here and kind of shoot it back to you guys, and you take a look at it and tell us if it looks accurate. But usually that's a pretty helpful thing when you're just trying to understand what's out there, because I think that is a pretty common complaint that there's no parking. But then you can actually show like, yeah, there's actually 600 or 700 parking spots here in a small village. That's a tremendous.
You can also highlight.
Anywhere? Like up like in the lot?
Yeah. Are there any lots that you know of? that are
Along Main?
Just anywhere? I mean, are there places?
They're on the backside.
Library and stuff, but
They're on the backside. They're not along. The accesses you got to go
Okay.
around to them.
Back to the store.
So then, like, I think one of the main problems in Marietta is that people don't know where they can park.
Sure.
And so that might highlight that issue, is that it's more about being aware of where you can park rather than.
I don't think that's public parking behind
Yeah.
them stores and
I
stuff.
don't
That's
either,
probably
really.
private.
You'll be surprised when you see the number of lots, even in small towns, how many there are compared to the number of buildings. You know, you think there's not much, and then you start looking at the behinds and the besides
Yeah,
and the
there-
over there's, and there's a lot that you never really think of. And like to Jason's point, what we find in these places is also it's never clear, can I park there? It's the
Whether it's
weekend.
public or
Can I
private.
park there? It's after 5 o'clock. Can I park there?
Yeah, they park there anyhow.
Well, yeah. Well, some of them don't. It doesn't matter.
Another
Right?
yellow line, they don't care.
clear up on the sidewalk to go in the restaurant.
Yeah.
One lady parks about 3 foot from
Okay.
Out in the middle of the street.
Any other questions about any other comments about downtown when I first say anything?
It's one tire place.
So a couple other things that we brought that I wanted to kind of point out to you, and we'll just kind of go in order, was I think you guys all have this. So let's talk about the traffic counts. So a lot of times what we find is when we go through these kind of experiences, you guys have it, we'll talk about that. It's often helpful for folks to see the amount of traffic that goes across their intersections and road segments in town. And a lot of folks, and myself included, when we started doing this a couple years ago, we had no idea about how much or how little traffic there is in certain locations. And so we wanted to provide this to you guys because we know a lot of these discussions end up centering around, we want to make road improvements, we want to make intersection improvements or changes, and the traffic count data helps justify some of that. So if you wanted to approach ODOT about a project in the future, a lot of this traffic count stuff will be central to that. So, and so my additional question to you is, you'll see that there's one on there that's green. That was one that we collected at Buckeye Hills, so we can do traffic surveys as well. You'll notice that a lot of these ODOT did in 2016, so this is part of their annual, like they'll go around and put the tubes across the road. And so if there's a spot like that that's a local road that ODOT misses, so if there's an area of concern here that you're just not getting data for, we can come and do a real quick 24-hour traffic survey on that road segment. So you don't have to tell us now, but just think about that. So if there's some area in there that you don't have any information on that you think is desirable to the village or would be of interest, let us know and we can work in a time to do a quick survey. Looking at that, I mean, I'm guessing that they've got a lot of the high volume and high interest places. Are there other places on there that you guys think is of importance or value that was overlooked?
Main Street.
Yeah, there's none on Main Street. And the only one on China Street, the other old main thoroughfare in town, is clear out past the park.
What was the other one, sir? China Street, you said?
Yeah. Yeah, by storage, or at least out by Temple's Gas. It's not even in town. Well, it should be in town, I guess. It looks like it should be in town.
It's interesting.
Highlighted.
I won't pretend to know the rhyme or reason why ODOT picks the locations they do. I even after working with them for several years, I don't know why some of those are.
And those are true counts, right? That's
Yep.
like 7,584 cars in a 24-hour
Yes.
period.
Yeah, they lay down tubes and count.
Okay.
Yep.
Can't imagine why they would have missed Main Street.
That's a good question.
I didn't.
There should be an updated one for 26 on the Industrial Drive. They did a tube count there this year.
I don't know. That was the latest data that I could get. I don't know how long it takes them to process their information or when they make it
I know
public.
they just did one on Industrial Drive, traffic count.
This summer.
They did it on two different spots, but Industrial Drive. They did by the rail bridge there, or by the railroad tracks a year ago.
I could go back into our historical data and see if we have any of these roads.
Prior to 2016.
Yeah. I was surprised that I figured that they would have multiple years in there when I grabbed
The
it.
Main Street Bridge shut down.
Right after we shut Main Street Bridge.
They typically lag a year because they release them all at once for the whole
Okay.
state. Isn't that right? They don't release them piecemeal. They
I
kind of
don't think
release.
so, yeah.
Yeah, they release them all at once.
2018, there was one done in 2018 this year. Just this fall.
Yeah.
It's always interesting to see the elevated levels around the schools. Every community you look at, 5,000, both spots north and south of the school there.
Well, they've done the traffic counts there before because they've been trying to get a light at the
Right there,
intersection of 669 and 93 for years. It's not happened. They do the traffic counts to try to justify it, but I don't think we've ever got it clear that it probably needs to be done for safety reasons. I bet our fire chief
Has it crashed?
and police chief would agree with it. There probably needs to be a light there.
Crash data's in that for you. There it is.
Yes, sir.
Or look all them red dots right there.
Good
669,
segue.
Yeah.
So you'll also see we have on there a map of crashes for the last 5 years.
Oh, good lord.
There is no. I know it's kind of hard to read. And we'll work on that. But there were no fatals in this area, so that's good. So what we do, Jason, you want to talk a little bit how we calculate how the crashes work? You want to say some stuff about?
I mean, like how they're where they're located and
Yeah.
what they mean. Yeah. Well, so the first thing is that ODOT won't get any information on the crashes unless there's an actual report filed and sent up to the Department of Public Safety. So that has to be the OH1 crash report has to be filed on the crash. So that's the only way they're going to have record of it.
Second most.
ODOT then takes all of that data and they clean it up and they determine better locations for it, I guess, because they said that they actually read all the reports and determine with a certain amount of precision where the crash actually located. They said that I think that latitude and longitude recorded in the OH1 is like 7th on their list of location criteria. The crashes get classified by 5 different severity levels. So you have it's a property damage only / no injury (PDO), possible injury, visible injury, serious injury, and fatal injury. And like Brett said, that I didn't find any fatal injuries in this area. But in that area you were just talking about down there by the school, there was one serious injury. And there were 5 total crashes at that specific intersection. The way ODOT places these points is they're stacked on top of each other. So if you see something that kind of looks like a flower, that's because I actually spaced the points out around their central location. See, we could actually see each individual point and count how many crashes there were there. On your printouts, that's pretty small. On this bigger one, you can more easily count each one.
And I'm leaving these for you guys. These are yours. We'll leave these for you guys.
Cool.
The ones we wrote on, we'll bring you a clean one. So one of the things we've learned about crashes is that you may be shocked to know, but if you wreck your car into a ditch and your neighbor comes and pulls you out with a tractor, it's not going to show up. So what we find is there are some places where there are a significant number of that never makes it into the crash that needs to be addressed or needs to be considered in some way. So my question for you is, are there areas here that are safety concerns or high concern areas that maybe don't show up in the crash information that you guys are just locally aware of?
These are crashes over 5 years, so if you've got an area that you think is a problem, it should be showing up in here.
And while you're thinking about that, one of the reasons why the crash data is important is if you want to try to get a safety improvement, do an ODOT project with safety, has to meet a certain number of crashes in 5 years. And so we're usually looking around for these kinds of locations to see if there's an interest to do an improvement or a safety study there.
I believe the count is actually 10 crashes over 3 years or a fatality.
Yeah. So we're always trying to see if there's opportunities out there to make those types of improvements. I mean, those projects do require match, but a lot of times they're important. What we used to do a lot of is we used to take animal strikes out because there is no effective countermeasure for an animal. It doesn't matter really what you do. So we used to take animals out, but now
we've actually been asked at a recent meeting to do a more in-depth study on animal strikes, perhaps to get a better idea of where they're happening, so that we can.
Mark, most times they're marked pretty well.
Yeah. Yeah. So any thoughts on any other areas of concern that didn't show up in the crash information that maybe we're missing that is of interest to you as a council person or as a citizen, as a resident, or any of you folks? Are there other safety areas there?
About right. You have
Yep.
I think we pretty much covered,
A lot of times this will also just kind of confirm what you know.
Yeah.
right? That's exactly right. That's
You know.
why I was just. Yeah.
And that's important. That's important too, because I think a lot of times we assume that we know or that it's correct, and then something like this really helps kind of put that into context. So,
Yeah.
Everything's pretty much covered, I think, for our area.
for the areas of concern, okay.
I've had 3 in private parking lots this year, for property actions.
Yeah.
I went to get a report for them, of course, obviously.
You go up on 93,
Damn, we
and
don't
add in
have
trim.
to.
Sure.
Do it as courtesy here.
Yes.
Like the things they tell them, they're all, we got time for you to
Yeah.
exchange your information.
Old Randall Road's probably, I bet you that's spotted up like a.
Parking lots.
That's why they, a few years ago, lowered the speed down to 50 right there.
Speed's not real high right here where it's happening on these out here.
45.
So if it's some of the other things we can do along with the crash stuff is we can pick up crashes that are alcohol related, drug related. We can do analysis on the time of day. If there's a certain, hey, it's always at night or it's in the daytime, it's certain conditions. What we find is people seem to feel like it's always a curve. What they don't lack to see is it's the straightaway that's right before it in the middle of the day. That's where the crash is really happening, and it's just.
Some of that is beholden to how the form is filled out, but yes.
So there's other things we can provide as well if open interest as well. We do, every year, we publish to the media a distracted driving, drunk driving kind of profiles for every county, which would include Crooksville and the Perry County data. It's always shocking. We try to release it normally right before the prom, so it gets into the newspaper and stuff. And so we've been doing that. The same thing is we also take, on a countywide basis, we rank the highest crash locations. So folks like yourselves that are trying to make decisions and make policies about local roadways and other transportation concerns can have information about where are areas that are dangerous. So we provide that as well. And we've been publishing those for the last several years as well, and those usually hit the media also. Any other crash questions or concerns? It's usually an interesting one people like to look at as well. So we've got 2 more. So let's talk about the sidewalk status. So when we started our transportation planning activities in 2013, there was a lot of interest around mobility, and really mobility inside of communities, so I'm talking about, not using a car, riding a bike, walking. And so what we needed an inventory of our communities of where are there sidewalks and where aren't there. And so the purpose of this map is just something that we did for our entire 3,600 square miles. I didn't do any of it. Jason and his staff did that and did an awesome job. And so what this will show is there a sidewalk? Is there a sidewalk on one side, or is there a sidewalk on both sides? And then it'll also pick up what we were able to see of visible crosswalks using the aerial imagery.
Yeah.
And so
all this is aerial imagery too.
Yeah.
So anything that is missing,
it wasn't intentional.
Yeah.
Help us make it better.
Yeah.
So, and this was good because a lot of communities, this doesn't have like the width or the depth of concrete or anything like that. It just kind of shows where are sidewalks and where aren't there. And really, part of it was to support the Safe Routes to School, which is a walking to school program that ODOT does, where you can do specific improvements to local infrastructure specifically for kids that walk to school. But the sidewalk status is important because, and for other reasons as well, for downtown purposes. We've had people from across the region use it for a lot of reasons. So if that's inaccurate, or if you think if we missed things as well, on there as well, please let us know. But we find that to be a pretty useful tool for folks that, they would have to pay. Some communities have to pay thousands and thousands of dollars to get that kind of a general sidewalk status, and we're happy to just provide it to you. And that's really just an informational piece for you guys. Unless you have questions about it, I wanted to get that in your hands because we just did that in the office, and we don't get to make it to every community to kind of field verify all the sidewalk stuff. So if there's anything there of concern.
Do you all bus the students from the village?
Pretty much.
Down here.
Is everybody?
Yeah.
There's only a couple residents out by the school. Most of the residential areas.
Is there a water line or anything that goes down there? Does the village have water or sewer service? We were just wondering, is this just an annexation for the school, or is there water?
Pretty much was an annexation for the school, I think. We annexed the road and whatnot, but we provide water service to them. And it goes. Tom just looped it. I think we just got it looped at this project, didn't we, Tom? So yeah.
We were curious. Whenever we see something like that,
the sewage into that.
Obviously, they did something to reach the school there, so we were.
The sewage into that is part of the county. That's a agreement with the county sort of deal.
Okay.
Not a good one for us anymore. It used to be a real good one for us.
Okay. But yeah, if there's anything there that we missed, we're happy to add to it and work on that. So then, the last one, I kind of just opened it up for questions and discussion, was this residential property map that we included. So at the last meeting, and also in the SWATs, there was a lot of discussion about housing stock and available housing in the village. And so what Jason did here was he took the parcel data for the county and he joined it with the auditor's database and pulled out just the residential properties in the Crooksville area.
So the things that the auditor had classified as residential.
Yeah. And so inside of that, you'll see this categorization of the various residential properties that are there. And I think it's important to make this clarification. Vacant residential doesn't mean that's a vacant house. Typically what that means is that's a residential lot that may not have a dwelling on it or another structure.
Specifically doesn't have a dwelling on it.
Yeah, so that's not, so when that says vacant residential, that doesn't mean like an empty house. That means there's a lot that's a residential lot that doesn't have a dwelling or other facility on it.
Piece of land that
Yeah.
it's just, okay.
So when the village was plotted, there was lots of, there's lots and lots of lots up here, but maybe somebody tore a house down and then now they just use it as their yard, but it's still a separate parcel in the auditor's data. So we found a lot of that. The brown, other residential structures, on just doing some spot checking on those, that looked like it was trailers, from what we could tell.
Mobile homes.
Yeah, the
There's
brown.
also the
I didn't look at every single one, but we did look at several down here to just kind of make sure that it was consistent, and it looked like it was mobile homes. So, so the question was, is something like this helpful for you in your kind of concern about, or trying to address questions about residential property stock, residential property that exists in the village?
we included everything around the village because what's nearby matters, but if you just want to see what's in your boundaries, we can do that.
And it's interesting, as I'm thinking back to our earlier discussion about even the commercial area, I noticed that it's there's a lot of residential, still mixed in, and so I'm guessing those are, and I haven't really spent a lot of time here downtown, but are there like house-based businesses or businesses that are in residential structures in the downtown area, or is it?
Not really.
No?
What type of businesses are in the downtown?
Let's see, we have, there's a restaurant, insurance, a couple insurance places.
A lot of them have apartments above,
Attorneys up,
the
the bank,
library.
library.
Is there any requirement, I'm curious, if somebody has a business downtown, is there a parking requirement? Like if you have a storefront business, do you have to have so many parking spaces in order to have that business? And is there any restriction about having a business on a second floor or a third floor as well as a storefront? Like, so if somebody wanted to have a business on the second floor, a publishing company, or
I'm not aware of any of us having
yeah.
restrictions.
But I mean, there's nothing prohibiting it.
I don't
No
believe
prohibit.
that- I don't
Because there are
believe
there are some communities that specifically prohibit that, and that's problematic. The parking especially, because we get into a situation in Marietta where somebody has a food truck.
Oh.
In order to have a food truck, they have a restaurant downtown, but the food truck counts as a restaurant, so they got to have X number of parking spaces. So they lease them from the bank or somewhere across town, so they can operate their business downtown. It's the parking requirement tied to the business thing is, I don't know. It could be. I'm sure there's a wisdom to it, but I don't know.
What was the issue we ran into with the food truck and Peach brought up with the, wasn't a parking issue, was that a licensing issue or something?
When they had it down in the
Oh, when
parking
the
lot.
Joe fellow was down there selling sandwiches.
Reed Stationery. Wasn't close to that.
I didn't ever think they had a problem.
Something to do with because he didn't pay water, sewer bill or something.
Oh, yeah.
Are there other questions about residential housing that we could help you with information like this that you think would help address questions or issues that folks are bringing, or maybe that you have yourself?
I think generally speaking, we have a fairly good handle on, the vacants and stuff through the water department.
Yes.
Yeah, you touched on it earlier, it's the age of that house.
Sure.
And then the lots that we have, it's more traditional, it's up, not out.
Yes.
For that aging population that doesn't want steps anymore, that's the issue. And
Does the village require registration of rental properties by owners of any kind? Is there like a rental registry?
We've talked about it, but I don't think we're there yet.
A lot of other communities seem to be doing that. It's controversial, but I'm just curious. I just didn't know because I think that impacts both sides of the rental conversation. And some communities are doing that really to bring the quality of rentals up by, making it known who owns properties and because a lot of times the renters feel powerless in the rental to make improvements or to deal with conditions. So that's one way that communities are trying to get a handle on who owns all these places. And a lot of times it's the same person that owns 20.
Yeah.
for 30, you know, so.
You find a lot of the homes that are vacant and empty are owned by banks in Florida,
Yes,
Texas,
yeah.
and you can't get them to do anything.
Were those foreclosures from several years ago? Do you have any sense?
Some
Yeah,
are going for sheriff's sale.
yeah. And you feel like there's a more than insignificant number of those? I mean, there's,
Oh yeah.
Versus fair share.
really?
Oh, yeah.
Interesting.
We could try to see which residential properties are not owned by people.
Yeah.
That would probably be a pretty high percentage.
Yeah.
I've seen, this is just kind of a fun fact, I've seen properties that were owned by churches and the second listed owner on the property tax record is God. I didn't know that.
Where did you see that?
Hocking County. Yeah.
Trying to evade some taxes.
I guess,
Churches
yeah.
don't have to pay taxes.
I guess, yeah. It just surprised me when we came upon that. I was like, I've never seen, I didn't know that we could do that. So.
No,
Parish or something.
Yeah.
Some of those residential units may be owned by a commercial entity too. So you may want to look at that. It might be a trust or a.
So, with all that said and all that information before you, really our overall question for you is, what information will help you? We took what was in the swaths, which was interesting, and we're kind of working over that. And there's clearly some opportunities where everybody's in agreement of, this is a priority. This, these things. I mean, so there was some clear consensus in there about, what those priorities were, and hopefully we can give you some strategies on how you might be able to accomplish some of those things. But even before that, for questions that people are bringing to you, or for questions that you guys have, what other information can we give you? What other advice can we give? What other data can we give you? That's really what we want to do as part of this. And also, don't feel like this. You don't have to say it now. This is not just we're walking out of this room or we're leaving. We're here to help you for the long term. We've been here for 50 years. We're going to be around for a long time. I mean, Tom certainly knows where to get us. And don't feel like you have to come up with it tonight, but I'm just saying, if there's something that's burning, if there's something that's of interest to you guys that we could provide some information on that would help you.
He did the sidewalk status in
Yes.
Crooksville. It's where there is sidewalks.
Yep.
But we didn't go on quality of sidewalks.
No.
Because the quality of sidewalks.
So really
One of the areas where we're talking about targeting.
So what we've done with that is we've seen some communities take that and then basically do a walking survey, right? So they're going to go. So now they're going to take that. They know where sidewalks are. So now I'm not going to waste my time driving around up here trying to see if there's sidewalks.
Right.
I can go right to the places where we think we have it, and we can do just a basic visual, walking inventory of where routes are. And other towns have done that using that information. And it seems like it's been helpful.
I mean, that's just helpful.
Yeah,
But,
yeah, yep. So there's a
guess-
step 2 you can do. You can go there.
Yeah, if you want to do something like that, I mean, we could make you a better map for that, or
Yeah.
prepare some stuff so that you can give us that information. And we can
Right. It's probably information we obtain
Yeah.
pretty easy. All you gotta do is walk them.
a targeted series of maps.
Bill like walk them all, probably tell you.
Yeah.
Go find the mailman, he can tell you whatever sidewalk's bad.
That's right.
Yeah.
Those guys are good resources. And ladies, guys and ladies are good resources.
Just talk to the mailman, he'll tell you about the sidewalks.
Yes, indeed. Same with your water guy who's reading meters. If you still got manual read or anything like that, those guys and ladies are good resources as well.
Now, on the residential properties, that came off the census, or did that come out of?
So that came from the county's parcel data, and then the auditor's database. They're joined
Okay.
together there. There's lots of other things you can do. There's lots of other data that you can have in there.
It's helpful, but it's also hindering in a way because, I'll just use my place as an example. I have 2 half lots, which most people do. They're in half lots, aren't they? 'Cause they break them down in half lots. Your property's on 1 half lot, and when your description of that property is your house is on the one, and then on the other, it'd be a vacant lot. So it's showing up as a vacant lot.
Sure.
It's not really. It's
Yeah, and there's probably maybe that's a good point. Maybe there's a better way to illustrate that is,
Because if it's tied to the property that's owned and it's blue right there and you see a
Yep.
vacant lot right next to it, I think you need to find out whether that's a vacant lot.
And it was the same thing, because when he did that, we worked on it together and we looked at it and we were like, well, so let's look at some of these, and it was exactly what you're describing. House on one lot,
Right.
probably a house 50 years ago torn down, so now I've got a side yard or pool over there or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, after talking, I think that the vacant lots are less than useful, and trying to find a systematic way to identify potentially vacant houses might be more useful.
Is there LBRS up here, Jason? Yeah, Perry have it. So there's, we have access to the 911 address point database that kind of tells us more information about structures.
That's
And that, we could probably combine that with this and give you something that's a little
that would
more,
probably be
a little more targeted.
a little more detailed.
We've used that in a lot of other counties. Some counties have even gone crazy with that, using that for all kinds of stuff. So
Yeah.
that's a good resource. And that was another public.
And a lot of this information, I'm sure Tom and Brittany,
Sure.
we have.
Yeah.
There.
We've got a great relationship with Drew and with Brent at the county and getting a lot of that stuff. So it's been pretty productive.
Good information, though.
Okay.
Not trashing it.
No, it's a good discussion. We're doing it to try to help you guys with the conversation. So, but yeah, if you think if there are other things that would help you guys, what we're going to do when we leave tonight is we will send you those things you have on paper. We have those as PDFs. We'll email them to you. We'll also email you the maps. We've also built a web map viewer that has a lot of that stuff in it. So you can go there and play with it yourself. So you'll be able to do that.
Should have everything in it except for this residential properties thing. And it's got a couple other things like the FEMA 100-year floodplain and stuff like that.
So we'll make sure that gets out to you guys hopefully tomorrow. And then if there are other items, please let us know. What we would like to do next is, and I know we've only got 9 minutes left, so I guess it's enough time to talk about the next meeting. The next meeting date, what's the next meeting date for you guys? It falls on a weird day in November. Was it right after?
It's a holiday.
You mean another workshop?
Yeah, the next.
Second.
Second
Workshop
Monday.
is second Monday.
That's Veterans Day.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Okay. So
We'll have a Tuesday.
I don't know. Are you gonna meet that day?
Tuesday.
You meet on Tuesday.
Why, what is it?
Monday the 12th is Veterans Day, which is the next scheduled meeting of this group.
Does that mean that give you a day off?
I don't remember holidays.
I don't think it's a holiday.
I guess that's not a holiday here.
Not for schools.
Okay.
I don't think it's a holiday for you,
It's not a holiday.
Oh, it's not?
but it's for you guys, right?
It is for us.
Yeah.
Um,
To the 13th?
You can do
You want to do the 13th?
Not that one.
workshop.
Okay.
That's
It'll
Monday.
be the 4th.
Be the 27th or the
It's
26th.
the Monday after.
It's 26.
26th. That'll be your next after the holiday. So you want to plan for then? Does that sound feasible, Mayor? The 26th.
Yeah. I don't care.
Computer season,
Oh.
We have homework?
Not
Yeah.
yet.
Oh, okay.
But I have a couple more questions. So, okay, so for the next meeting, what we would like to do for the next meeting is we will be bringing back the information that you guys gave us in the SWOT analysis that you guys did, and we've taken everybody's information and we've kind of categorized it up into some kind of general, here are things, consensus, the things that people are talking about amongst the group here, and we'll try to put together not only a list of what those things are, but some resources that are available to maybe help try to address some of those things, or at least begin the conversation on some of those. And so we'll have that for next time, and we'll spend basically that whole meeting kind of talking about those things that came up out of that, and kind of what you want to put in the document that we're going to produce at the end. Kind of what would you like to see in there? And it starts with what you guys gave us last week, which was good. So the girls and I and Jason, we've been working on that, so we'll have that. In the meantime, if there's any other, we'll bring back some new copies of the maps that we drew on. We'll leave all the other ones that we didn't draw on for you guys, those are yours. If there's other information that you want us to bring, let us know, and we'll try to work it up. We'll try to make some of the improvements to some of this stuff.
Really good data. Thank you.
Jason's been busy up here working with Northern Perry Water to collect their system, and so we'll get to the village. Get through the schedule.
Explain that the county has
Yeah.
paid for us to do every water system in the county, so
Yep.
that includes villages.
Yep.
So we'll be contacting you sometime soon.
So we'll be doing basically a GIS data collection like that. It'll show all the water and sewer. We've done a couple other counties in their entirety, and that's been a huge asset as well. So we'll work on that.
What are they doing? Compiling rates, usage? What are
No,
they?
they
what
want
are they doing?
infrastructure.
So we're going to
Infrastructure?
go out in
Like
the
where it
field
is.
and
Where's that?
GPS map all the
Well, that'll be
infrastructure.
easy. Another 12 months when it's done.
Yeah.
All your reports and everything.
We'll work with, and if it works out, the time until after that
Government
is completed, we can do that too.
I mean, our contract's pretty open-ended with the county. They just want to see progress, so. And we have the whole county to do, so if it's better for you to wait until all your stuff's done, we can wait.
You ain't gonna accuse me again.
We meet on November 13th.
Yeah. Or the 20, I thought we agreed on 26.
We meet, I'm just saying, we meet for a workshop on 13th.
You do? Okay. Is that workable, you think? I can do it.
You guys are out though.
We're off on Monday. We're off on Monday.
Veterans Day, 13th Tuesday.
Yeah, that's Tuesday.
Okay.
So I think that can.
We're off on Monday.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought you guys. If you get those.
Well, when you email these things, will they be in a form that we can zoom?
Yeah, they'll be PDFs. You can go right into them real time.
You got everybody's email?
We will probably send them to Brittany and let her disperse them to you. Is that all right, Brittany?
So we're gonna do the
Give me that.
13th,
Give me
or
that.
is that?
13th work?
13th?
On a Tuesday? Yeah, that'll work for me.
Okay. Any other questions for us? Is this helpful for you guys? Is this?
Yeah.
It will be.
Okay. Like I said, we're trying to come up with,
You want them to start all over since you missed?
we can just stay and do it again.
I'll watch it.
Stay over.
Watch the
Watch
We're trying to get this into a package that we can do for other communities as well and kind of come up with a set list of items that we can do in a kind of focused, this is almost like a needs assessment to me. You know, so we'd have like a needs assessment that we could really do for anybody. So we're getting it down there. So we want to make sure this is helpful for you. We're not, nobody wants to sit here and listen to Brett talk for a bunch of hours, but we want to make sure it's helpful for you. So. Okay.
I'm a damn veteran, you think I wouldn't have it all?
Me too.
Any other questions for us? Look at that, we're a couple minutes early. You guys have our information, please contact us if there's anything else we can do. If you think of anything else, let us know. Thank you guys, if you think of anything, something that would be helpful, let us know.
Thanks again, some great information. Really.
I have a quick question on your GIS.
Yes.
When you do the infrastructure, does that show where the hydrants are located
Yes.
and all that?
We collect everything that the system wants or will let us. And so that's pretty much all physical pertinences. I'd like to say everything sort of can be best represented by a point. We go out there with the unit and collect. And then for the water lines, those are buried. We draw those in by hand with the oversight of the person who manages the system. So they say, it goes through this yard, takes this cut here, and they actually watch as I draw it in. So it's pretty good, but the point data is really good.
What we don't do, we don't line finder or any of that. We don't do that. So we're really trying to do it.
Now you want more. You do not have your later on.
Game day
I
last
didn't, you're right.
I knew you wanted
Let me pick on my brother.
I got one hid in the closet, so don't be
We all do, honey. That's a lot of us deny it.
No, I really don't.
He ran away.
You have your chair back out there.
Oh, think about it.
I warmed it up for you.
Okay, thanks.
Actually, might be the Okay. Remember you said that. I'm going on road trip with you
I
guys.
mean, that's the only way we're gonna get to something. Those are ideas right there.
That's right.
Squeeze out.
I mean, there's more areas you thought. He thought we should just be area.
Why, that's a lot of valuable information.
Oh, you're taking the.
We're taking the board.
That's real good. Quite a sign.
You drop something, Brenda?
We don't have
Like you said.
Watch that.
No?
Okay.
My brain, maybe.
That's a good bit of area.
Yeah, I mean, if you did, but not as much as I thought.
I wouldn't either.
Down the line.
Not today.
I think the corner of
It's in the power of Washington.
Even though you're mean to me, you must have the bump chairs and get away.
I didn't know if it was buses. We may have to go to the store.
There is.
I didn't even look to see if there was one on South State Street. Is there one?
Where you live, you're getting ready to close that street down.
Yeah, we're down to that street.
We're not even gonna
We're gonna go next street.
I think that's the issue that we ran into.
Yeah.
They're not even going.
I totally didn't lie to you.
All right.
You know? They're not even gonna remove snow on that street, too.
All right.
Thanks so much.
So everybody's pumped up? Oh, I get those. Great. Thank you.
Can you be trusted?
Sure.
Promise? You have little ones, but these ones you can actually read. Those ones are just for pretty
We'll hold
pictures.
on to these.
Yeah. We'll bring you up some new ones, the ones we drew on.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks so much.
Do you want this stuff?
Thank you, Brent.
Down?
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Oh, yeah. Even though it's dead end now.
Did you do the phone summary yet?
I don't think so. We can probably do it.
So wish that's the.
Any questions?
Maybe we'll see. We'll see what the list looks like.
Surprise?
It's like pulling teeth and done.
Well, I imagine.
Thanks, Tom. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for good information.
See you guys.
Be careful, folks.
Yep.
Thanks, Brad.
Okay.
I have your book.
All right, next on the discussion of the single axle trash hauler. I put that on there to see if we can get a jump on next year, the start for next year, and limit those trash haulers to single axles within the village. Those of you that's here when Thursday to the meeting with the surety company, that come up, and that was their observation they made and brought out at that with that come out from left field from them about why pave 2 inches if you're going to have it tore up with the weight of all the trash haulers that they seen within the village. So I don't know. We have to start somewhere. Start with a single axle, requiring all trash haulers to single axle. Any discussion on it? What's your feelings on it? It's a start.
Started first of the year. We just send out your informational package for the,
We usually send them out beginning of December.
yep, just put that in there.
So there may have to be some changes. I'll have to ask Jan about changes on legislative changes on any ordinances we have that, you know, limiting the, you know, capability to single axle.
How you gonna get some of the businesses that have hoppers that they don't?
That's commercial and they're different.
Okay. You're just
Commercials.
talking about residential.
That's correct. Just residential. I don't, to my knowledge, we don't have any commercial businesses that have dumpsters on an alley where they have to travel up the alley to retrieve it. Maybe private property, but
Peach,
so
gotta go behind Peaches.
Peaches. Okay,
Got the dumpster back there.
that'd be the only one that I could think of.
Shaw, unless they share.
Who's that?
Beauty shop and the computer man, all them down there, they probably share. I don't know if they share one or not. All them businesses from Peaches down.
Hand up.
Red Hat.
Yeah.
Red Hat.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Red Hat, do they use a dumpster? I don't know.
I don't know. I haven't been back.
I wouldn't think they would generate enough stuff to need a dumpster of their own.
I wouldn't think. But they're limited on those areas, so, you know, that's different. Now, Friday night last week, BA did pick trash up Friday night after dark. I don't know if anybody else in town noticed it, but I noticed it. Billy, did you notice it all? Did they get yours or Janet's? They stopped at your.
They get mine.
Okay, and they got Mary's. That's the other lady that lives.
Janet don't.
But I don't know if they had a breakdown or anything because they never notified me. They notify the police that they had a breakdown, be picking up Friday.
No, I have no idea.
Have to caution them on that, you know, letting somebody know if that's the case. Because the ordinance says Tuesdays and Thursdays.
Yeah.
Just a note here, Jan will update us on the surety meeting at the council meeting next week when she hears.
Yeah, I think council want to know how that meeting went.
Yeah.
So if I were you, I would ask her to update you on that in executive session. That's up to council, but I would think you'd want to know how that went.
I was there and I'd like to know how she thought.
Yeah. So I and
Oh, by all means, I think we should know.
yeah. And any other discussion on the single axle? Is it?
Are you just saying single axle, or are you gonna limit it to a weight limit? I mean, what are we doing here?
Well, when you put it on the axle,
does change the weight limits of trucks, right?
yeah.
We went through that before.
Yeah.
Yeah. That changes the weight limit based upon
Which
axle.
is going to give some longevity to the alleys that we do pave again. So reduce the amount of weight. The cycles, there again, you know, how many haulers are not going to be pulling, what, 40 to 60 ton over an alley in tandem versus 20 to 25 ton, I'm estimating for a single axle. It's somewhere in that range. 20-some ton, I think. So,
We'll probably have to pass that. There'll have to be amendment to the ordinance.
yeah, we'll research that and see what has to be changed. Also, Rodney, can you give us an update on the CSI, the trash company, what your investigations found and so on?
CMI?
Yeah, Jerry.
CMI.
Jerry and I
Yeah.
are CMI.
Yeah.
Jerry and I are going through to see how many of the complaints are tied to CMI, and then our plan is to do an individual report, submit them to Jan for prosecution, and then do a summons through court rather than write the company a ticket. Actually, charge the company through summons and bring the company heads into court. So, also, if mine and Jerry's recommendation is that they not be
Granted,
yeah, they should be shut down and ignored.
yeah, for the council don't know, we have several places in town where trash that they have not picked up is stacked up. I mean, it is massive in some of those areas.
And several of these people come in with their bills to show Jerry that they had paid, and these people never came.
Correct. They paid their bills, had their receipts, and trash not picked up.
I can vouch for that.
Yeah.
So
I paid December, January, February, and they never showed up, and I got a new hauler in March.
And I have not been able to
And never
contact them
got
by
a
telephone, nothing.
So-
They're not answering their telephone, not nothing. No recording that goes back to give you any indication that that's CMI trash company. Just as the message box is full.
Is the company still in existence?
That I don't know.
Have they filed bankruptcy, anything?
No, I have no.
Have they been in town picking up any at all?
No, they have not.
but the customers in the town, it really makes it look terrible.
You know where their place of business is at?
Newark.
Maybe worth a trip over there to hand carry
Oh yeah.
the
that's-
summons.
That's what we would do at Circle.
Yeah,
Yeah.
good job. Still with us, Ralph?
Yeah.
You look awful sleepy.
No.
Do you have anything?
We have had about 80 squad runs so far this month. A handful of fire runs. Other than that, things are going okay.
Any update on the funding for the new firehouse? Any update on it at all?
I've got feelers out working on things. I'm
Okay.
waiting. I get some answers back, says they can't do it, and I got more feelers out, emails out and whatnot to different places.
Feelers out on what, Ralph?
Pardon?
Feelers out on what?
Grants and all that toward the new fire station.
Thought we was gonna go to bond council.
Yeah,
for that.
this is just something to help out. It wouldn't be a full grant. The grants don't fully fund the whole firehouse. They can help a little bit.
Are we having any scheduling issues with EMS?
It's good. We have been, because I had a lot of people off on medical leave. I got everybody back but one person now, so it's better.
Okay. Council, have anything else? I'm sorry I was late. I had a special meeting with the Mid-East Vocational School. Nothing else to come for workshop. We're adjourned.
No, we don't want to adjourn. We want to hear about the meeting Thursday. We're going to executive session and hear about what happened Thursday.
Well, Jan was going to tell us at
I was
the
gonna do that next Monday. when
yes, the council
Well,
meeting.
it's 2 weeks.
Because there'll surely be some questions, Bill, from everybody as to what, our legal position is. That's why.
Okay.
Okay?
I definitely want to know what went on there.
Yeah. Anybody have anything else? If not, we're adjourned. Thank you.